Good evening, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen. Goeienaand, dumelang, liperile, kunjani, bagiti. So good to be with you again tonight. We have a very wonderful lineup of speakers and guests who will be sharing exciting things with us tonight. Before we start introducing them, as you know, I don't fly alone. I have a co-pilot, Honorable Wayne Thring, who is joining us all the way from Durban. Good evening, sir. It's time for you to say hello to all our members and supporters. Thank you, sir.
Well, thank you, President, and good evening to all of our fellow viewers, supporters, members who join on a regular basis. I just want to say a big thank you. And maybe as I say thank you for your commitment and your support, to ask you to please also consider, as we prepare for 2024, to do one of a few things. Pray for the ACDP. Speak to a relative about the ACDP. Sign up a member, sign up somebody to the ACDP, because every vote counts. So that's my brief introductory welcome, and so good to have each and every one of you again. As the President said, we have an excellent lineup, and we're looking forward to hearing from our guests that we have tonight. Thank you, sir, and God bless you. Back to you.
Well, thank you so much. I trust that all the members that are coming in, we want to say hello to them. Shalom leaders, Mario Brink. He says, Shalom leaders and ACDP family, we pray God's favor over our gathering. And then Kino van die Kapstad, he said, Goeienaand, ACDP family, looking forward to tonight's exciting and informative conversations with our leadership. We have Suzette Mountain, evening president from White River Vetrefield. And then we have Bunny Bernardo. Good evening, Mr. President. From Limpopo, they are saying, a spokesperson for Limpopo, welcome, Mr. President, from a hot Naboom spread in Limpopo. We appreciate every chat every evening for content. And then we have Jackie Lambert, greetings from Durban. Welcome, Joseph Rampai, Bloemfontein. Good evening, Mr. President. Dumela, Mo Presidente. Don Rogers. Good evening, Reverend, from a rainy PE. Come to Joburg, is better here. Maria Lotta. Good evening, Honorable President. And Dade Taidi is saying, good evening, President, DP and ACDP family. Neil Klassen, greetings from Lusaka, Zambia. That's interesting. Then we have Lady Screamer, good evening, all watching from Cape Town. We have Beverly Peterson, good evening, Mr. President, and the ACDP family, good to be on the flight tonight. Greetings from Cape Town, from Safroni. Who's this? My eyes, Fowler. Please pardon me if I didn't pronounce your name well. Then you have Nora Mali Tinyiko, all the way from Fostoras. Good evening again, Mr. President, Deputy President, and ACDP family. Joseph Rambai says, Dumelang DP, Goeienaand DPA. And then who's the last one? Donovan, Goliath. Hey, Goliath, watch out, David is coming. And good evening, President, and the entire leadership of ACDP. That's Moses Bowe. Okay, the Lord bless you. We have a long program and a very interesting program. Let's start with our guest. Let me introduce our guest. He said I should just say 2 sentences. He has a long CV. He is a medical doctor, and he is a Messianic Jew, meaning he's a Jew that believes in Jesus Christ, the Messiah. He is born again. That's the language he uses. Now, he is a doctor. I was so excited when I met him. because he said the Lord showed him that he should not take the vaccine. So he was not vaccinated. So he knows that we have been warned that another attack is coming. I call it an attack. Why? Because it is manufactured by individuals. This is not just a virus that comes naturally. There is going to be, they say, another pandemic. They want to prepare people to get masks, to be fearful, to stop eating with their families, as it happened with COVID-19 between 2020 and around 21. I think it was much worse. 2021. We hear that even families, some parents sometimes would eat together in the living room or the dining room, and the children would be in the bedroom because they feared one another. They thought they were going to infect one another. It is the kind of fear that gripped people all over the world. Now, once bitten, twice shy. I'm grateful to God that I was also not vaccinated. My family were not vaccinated, and the Lord kept us strong and healthy. But the advice that the doctor is going to give us tonight is how should we prepare ourselves? Without being a doctor, my advice is fear not. Don't allow fear in your heart. Okay, if you're a Christian, get into the word, because faith comes by hearing and hearing by the word of God. Let faith fill you, fill your heart, fill yourself with faith as you fill yourself with the word of God, so that the fear will not have power and dominion over you. So, Dr. Michael, welcome, sir. Now, you tell us, when these people are predicting another COVID strain, another variant, how should people who believe in God behave? Should they be fearful like all the others? Are you fearful yourself? What are you doing to protect yourself? Please tell us, Doc. Welcome and God bless.
Thank you. Excellent question. Maybe we can work out what fear stands for. The audience can work out an acronym for fear, but basically, how do we protect ourselves? Well, one is truth. What is the truth? If we can discern what truth is, we can protect ourselves. How did we protect ourselves during the waves of COVID in this country? Well, firstly, we had been pre-warned. It was happening in Europe, so we had time to prepare. And we knew very little about it at that time, so there was a lot of fear, F-E-A-R. But as scientists worked on isolating the virus and finding out how it worked, how it got into the body, how it made you sick, and its outcomes, whether it would kill you, whether it would make you sick, how you recovered, how the body responded. So we got knowledge and we learned what to do. So like anything that's new, we don't know what to do. We have to experiment. We have to try all sorts of things. Maybe eating certain fruits or vegetables could help us. Who knows? Maybe being out in the sun could help us. Who knows? But basically, for every problem, there's usually a very simple solution, and sometimes unlikely. So we learned a lot from the previous waves of COVID. It's a virus, and a virus needs somewhere to live, which we call a host. Now, it doesn't help the virus if it keeps killing off the host, because then it's got nowhere to live and it will die. So eventually what happens, we reach a happy medium where we live together with each other. The virus doesn't kill us. We don't really kill the virus, as it were. We live and we become good neighbors and we look after each other. It benefits the virus because it can live. It benefits us because we can live. It's a win-win situation. So what did we do when it first happened? Well, we went into lockdown. We did what is reasonable, which is to isolate ourselves, to try contain the spread, to buy us time so we could learn, and we could learn what works, what doesn't. Lots of trying, prototyping, experimenting went on with all sorts of things. We had to look at, were there medicines that we had already that could help? Number two, what medicines could we maybe develop, which we didn't have, which could help? Hence the Operation Warp Speed, which was popularized by the US president at the time, to get accelerated solution medically to this virus, which was to develop some form of cure or vaccination or immunization. So that was the scenario. Now, having had a couple of years and a couple of waves of this virus, the virus was named by letters of the Greek alphabet. So if you know your alphabet, I don't know offhand how many letters there are in the Greek alphabet. I can tell you in the Hebrew alphabet, there's 22 letters and 5 final forms. The Greek alphabet has a number of extra letters. So let's say, for argument's sake, the Greek alphabet has about, say, 28 to 30 letters. Don't quote me on that. You can look it up and find out. So the virus was named as it mutated and spread and created new forms. The mutations happen. This is what viruses do. They mutate to survive. So basically, they try evade the body's defense systems. They try hide. They try evade the medicine. They try so basically, if the virus can hide and mutate, and then it can jump from host to host, it can have a nice party. But eventually it has to reach a steady state, an equilibrium, a balance, because if it wipes out all the hosts, it's got nowhere to live and it will die. So it wants to look after itself. And so back to the naming, the World Health Organization started to name, there were various naming systems, but the ones that we were familiar with, either the virus was named after a country, but that could carry a stigma, calling it the South African virus or the Indian virus or the China virus. So they decided to not discriminate, and they used the Greek alphabet. I hope the Greeks were happy with that, from alpha, beta, all the way up to mu. Mu is the letter M in our modern alphabet. They skipped 2 letters, nu, because it sounded too much like the word new, and xi, because they didn't want maybe perhaps to insult the president of China. So they jumped 2 letters to Omicron. And that's what we have at the moment. We have Omicron and the various cousins, if you want to call it that, the family of Omicron, which we currently have. The WHO, the World Organization, has classified the viruses as viruses of interest, viruses of concern, viruses under investigation, and so on. And so, yes, there will be more viruses, because this is exactly what viruses do. They're going to mutate, they're going to change form, but what needs to concern us is basically the following. Are we friends with this virus, so that when we get it, how does it make us sick? What are the symptoms if it does make us sick? Can we give it to someone else if we're sick? And number 2, does it kill us? Well, what we've seen is that this virus basically over time has stopped killing us so much. The curves and the graphs, if we have a look at it, Africa has the lowest rate of new infections, lowest rate of deaths, lowest rate of hospitalization. So the curve's going down. Are we going to get new viruses? Of course we are. There's new ones coming out every year, just like the flu. There's a new strain every year, and every year the chemists make a fortune of money selling a new vaccine for that influenza. But let's remember also, your body's got an immune system. These are your soldiers, which, number 1, they reconnaissance any enemy, they isolate it, they identify it, they manufacture weapons to fight it. So, number 1, if our body's immune system is working well, how do we have a good immune system? Good health, good nutrition, some sunshine, vitamins. Vitamin D was very helpful, because many of us, if we're indoors and we got sunscreen SPF 50 all day, if we confined indoors, we're not getting sun. Sun protects us. It produces vitamin D. A healthy diet, fruit and vegetables protect us. There's certain groups which are more vulnerable than others, we found. Was it men? Was it women? Was it the young? Was it the elderly? Was it pregnant women? And so on. So I could go on and on, but I think what I'm trying to say to you, do not fear, stay informed, wash your hands. That was the greatest advance in medicine, was when they started washing hands before operating. Wash your hands, use common sense. If you sneeze, don't sneeze on all and sundry. Don't cough on everyone. That's impolite. Use common sense. Please don't panic. I think panic and fear probably killed more people, and old wives' tales killed more people than the actual virus. The real virus was lack of truth and lack of understanding and fear. F-E-A-R. So basically, let me try work out a little acronym for fear. It's basically something false that appears as reality, but it's not. When we shine the light and we get to brass tacks, use common sense, right? We're dealing with a bug, and at the moment we're at peace with this bug. And yes, there are going to be more variants because that's what viruses do. So don't panic. Panic is your greatest enemy. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Doc. One important thing I want to remember that the doctor said was that fear and panic has killed more people than the virus itself. So don't fear. God, if you are a Christian, don't fear. Because the Lord did not give us a spirit of fear, but the spirit of power, love, and a sound mind. Now, one of the things, obviously, we are talking about bringing back are lockdowns. This, I must say, friends, we say no more lockdowns. We know people who lost their businesses, people who lost their houses, people lost their cars, many other assets because of these lockdowns. When people are not allowed to travel, people are not allowed to go to work, and so on. So lockdowns, we'll talk one day about them, and then we are people of prayer. We will pray, and the Lord will show us what to do to ensure that we are not locked down. The Lord wants his people to move around. The Lord wants his people to have liberty, to have freedom. So those who want to imprison us in our own homes, as they will do with the smart cities, we are not going to be pushed into that, pressurized to accept that. We are not going to do that. There's a movement in the world that says, hashtag, I will not comply. Okay, that's just a bonus from you, not from the doctor, but from a man who believes in God, who walks with God, who has faith in God. And I know that faith is the victory in the blessed name of Jesus Christ. Okay, now we come to our next, before we come to our next guest, DP, want to say one thing or two things before I move on to the next guest?
Well, I think for me, one of the challenges, President, has been with regards to the actual vaccine itself and whether it was a vaccine. My understanding of a vaccine is it's something that prevents you from getting ill, and it prevents you from transmitting the disease. We were told also initially by the experts that if you take the vaccine, you won't get the virus. That if you take the vaccine, you're protecting your granny, you're protecting the elderly. If you take the vaccine, it has a 99% efficacy rate. And all of that appeared to have been lies. The other challenge was with regards to the Pfizer trial. And in the Pfizer trial, they found that over 1,000 people actually died from COVID. And this was hidden from the public. And Pfizer had to be taken to court. We were told that it would take something like, I think, 75 years or so for the results of the trial to be released because the voluminous documentation, and it had to take court action to get Pfizer to actually release the results of their trial. And as a result of that, that's when it was found out that over 1,000 people or so had died despite having been vaccinated. So clearly, I think that there were lots of lies together with fear, and the fear factor also obviously compounded that. And I agree with you, sir. Not again. Fooled once, but not again.
Thank you. I like that. Fooled once, but not again. Ons is no slimmer, ne? We are now better informed.
Yeah, zeker.
Yeah, ons is no slimmer. Okay. All right. Our second guest tonight is a lady with many skills. She had programs in that Marshalltown building that caught fire and was destroyed last week. You remember that? She had a lease to run his projects from that building, a 10-year lease. During those 10 years, his ministry grew because he combined she combined what she was doing with the ministry. During the week is training, Sundays is church. People must hear about the Lord. What a good thing she did. She started with 34 staff members. 34 staff members. And after 3 years, the number dropped to 26. She had volunteers who are assisting the ministry from local in South Africa, internationally from Germany, Poland, and USA and South America. She was doing a fabulous job that people were knowing about, admiring from different parts of the world. As a result, they were coming to assist. But then as time went on, she says, she's very diplomatic, she says, a political party dressed in red started intimidating them, okay? Dressed in red, because she did not mention their names, I also not mention their name. He says, a political party dressed in red. They started intimidating them, started interfering with what they were doing, started challenging them. Why? Because they wanted their friends to go in. One thing I hate is that with many of these buildings that are full of illegal immigrants, there are South African politicians who are involved with them. South African politicians who are making money out of these squatters in these buildings. Actually, on the news tonight, they were showing Johannesburg city officials touring the buildings. They are in a shocking state. Shocking state. So they were not maintained. Why? Because of the politicians who put pressure on people who were paying so that they could be maintained, putting pressure on them and got them out. And when they were all out, they just brought in whoever could afford to pay. So these politicians, some of them are now rich because of money they got illegally. This matter is not going to end this week or next week. Those politicians who have been paid, given cash by illegal immigrants who are in those buildings and who were in those buildings have to meet and get what they deserve if the arm of the law in South Africa is still effective. All right? That is something that somebody said, and very confidently, not hiding his face. Politicians, corrupt politicians. Christians must wake up so that we can help people. Now, this lady who is going to be speaking tonight is a pastor, Jean Bradley. So she will give us the story. What happened? What happened? Why did she leave without finishing his term? Because the lease was 10 years. And after about 5 years, she still had another 5 years to go. But she left because for the reason of safety. She wanted to be safe. So, Pastor Jean Bradley, please come on and tell us more about your time with the guys in the red overalls. How did they finally get hold of you? Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, Reverend. Thank you so much. Yes, actually, we took over the shelter in 2003 and started Usindisa Ministries in 2003. Our first lease actually was completed, and there was talk about being another one. We, in the meantime, had a lot of training programs going on, and the one that we were busy working with CETA to actually train people and the community around the building in trades. And that seemed to have sparked something with those people in red, because they kind of had the idea that there was going to be a lot of money. And they started coming in and coaching the women to be aggressive and not happy with things and not wanting to train here and there, intimidating us and the staff. It became a really difficult situation. I actually went to the mayor's office because the building belongs to the city, and I went to ask for help. I spoke to the mayor's, one of his deputies, on 2 occasions. Excuse me. And they assured me that they would help us and make sure that it didn't happen again. But unfortunately, nothing happened at all. And the chaos, the intimidation, and the whole scenario just became really very dangerous. I personally had threats, death threats, phone calls with threats, all kinds of things. And the Lord actually said to me one day when I was leaving, he said, it's now finished, and I wasn't to go back. So that's the situation.
So, if I may ask, what happened to that training that you were offering to people who needed assistance and who needed jobs? Are you still doing the same kind of training, and where are you doing that if you are?
Well, everything was broken down. You know, when these people started coming into the building, everything just fell apart. They broke into our computer room. Ladies were being trained in computers, in office work, in all those kind of things, so that they can go out and get work. And those things were broken into. The computers were stolen. Our stores were ransacked. It just became really, very dangerous to be there. Unfortunately.
I'm so sorry for the assistance you wanted to give, but was rejected by these unscrupulous criminals in red overalls who wanted to deny people the opportunity to learn. And sometimes I'm surprised that even the ladies themselves who are being trained allow people who have jobs to train them or to encourage them to be rebellious. And now, obviously, some of them did not qualify, did not get certificates because they agreed with these guys who came to intimidate, to harass, and to indoctrinate them with aggression. But thank you very much for what you have been doing. Now, because I've seen your CV, when we need a person with skills, we will know where to knock. We will know where to knock. So thank you very much.
That will be great. Thank you, Reverend.
Yeah, no, thank you very much for being with us today. Thank you very much. Okay, the Lord bless you. The Lord bless you. Now, after what we have heard, we now want to have a former MMC of Community Development, Councillor Harris. He was appointed acting mayor a few times. And we understand that he also won an award. I'm going to ask him to start with that award. Tell us what award he won. He was recognized for his great work. ACDP has great leaders, great individuals. When given opportunities, that is why members of the ACDP, we need to work hard to ensure that we have a new godly government 2024. We know how destructive the ungodly people can be in South Africa. We have seen what the ANC has done. What used to be a model on the continent of Africa, the best on the continent of Africa, they have trashed it. I remember when I first went to Europe with my former wife, my late wife. 1978, 78 and 79. We were in Switzerland, among others. For never forget, we were in Switzerland. We went to Germany, went to the UK, and as we drove on the freeways, we were stunned how bad their roads were compared to South Africa. Can you believe it? Switzerland, Germany, Netherlands, and UK. When we saw their bad roads, we said, hey, they must come and look at South Africa. Then the comrades came in. What happened to those roads? We are now a laughing stock. We have potholes all over. The drive from OR Tambo International Airport to go to all the diplomats and embassies in Pretoria, the road is shocking. And I thought these guys would be wise enough to hide our shocking state of roads by making sure that R21 between the airport and Pretoria is one of the best roads. No. They don't care. It's bad. It's there. It has dilapidated so badly. So, but now we have former MMC Harris CVIA, Creative Vibrancy Index for Africa. You will tell us more about that, all right? The highest, you got the highest overall ranking score for creating the most enabling environment for creativity, followed by Cairo, Egypt, Lagos, thirdly, and occurred during your tenure, sir. We are grateful to God for you, and we thank you for what you have done. So after hearing what Pastor Bradley said about how she was kicked out of the building, forced out of the building, and after seeing what people saw tonight on the news, what do you think has to be done going forward? What do you think has to be done to ensure that what has happened will not repeat itself? The number one, I'll mention number one. You can start from number two. The number one thing that must be done is get the ANC out. Number one. Once you get the ANC out, then you are on number two. So you can tell us from number two, because I already told our viewers number one, get the ANC out. They are destructive. They destroyed everything. But thank you, sir. It's over to you now.
Thank you, Mr. President. I trust everybody as well. Thank you for inviting me to speak to you tonight. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, sir. We can hear you clearly.
Okay. I've made some notes as to what I was going to speak about, because I think the initial question was about the overseas trips, if I remember some time ago, you know. And for me, I'm even surprised myself to hear that I've won some awards, you know, because for me, I just took it as part of the work, you know. But I'll speak about it as we go along. I think the first trip that we went overseas was to receive that award from UN Habitat for the Global Public Space Program, in recognition of the establishment of the first center on African public spaces in Africa. I gave a keynote address on urbanization and the need to maintain open spaces in an urban environment. Countries from all over the globe were present, and certainly we felt very proud to be representing Johannesburg receiving that award. At that meeting was the Minister of Human Settlements as well, so she knows well about the ACDP and what we were all about. From a professional civil service point of view, this particular conference was a great opportunity to network with heritage and environmental practitioners from various parts of the globe. And what stood out for me was the seamless way in which the conference was organized. The city is spotless. The public transport system is fully integrated with all modes of transport readily available. That's in Poland now. I saw for the first time a supermarket where there were no cashiers, no toll packers, nobody there. It was clean, a beautiful supermarket. People went and picked the groceries themselves, scanned it themselves, packed it themselves, and walked out of the shop with it. I thought, wow, we've got a long way to go in to get our society there, because I think our people will help themselves if it's such a free-for-all, you know. Then we've gone to Kassel in Germany, and this was to attend a cultural event that's held once every 5 years. The idea really was for us to go and understand how the Germans were wanting to partner with us in the inner city development within Johannesburg. One particular building that was on the agenda was the drill hall in town. Now, this building has been hijacked by NGOs, and there's prostitutes living there. It's a whole mess, but it's such a historical building, and it's such a pity that it's gone to ruin as well. In Germany, I think everything there runs like clockwork. There's above average sense of civic duty that the people have. People don't jaywalk, the pedestrians obey traffic signs. They even stand at the stop street when there's no traffic around, So it's just an amazing feeling of safety that was there. One of the other trips that we had was the South African franchise of the Arnold Schwarzenegger Games. They invited us to Seville in Spain for a benchmarking exercise, and lo and behold, when we got there, we discovered that the games that our department had held was streets ahead of the one in Spain. In Spain, they were focusing only on powerlifting and weightlifting and bodybuilding, but the one that we hosted in Reimsel Stadium had a whole variety of sporting codes represented. So that was a great encouragement for us. What is noticeable about Spain is that they are capitalizing on tourism and allowing people from Guatemala and Uruguay, wherever they speak Spanish, there seems to be a strong marketing ploy to get the people to come to Spain to visit and spend their money there. I was thinking that if we in South Africa can have the same kind of attitude with Black people in the diaspora, Black people in Europe, in Canada, Australia, America, coming here to South Africa to visit, that would be fantastic as well. I think what was also interesting there was the cleanliness of the place. The people, I saw women picking up dirt and cleaning the streets with machines. It was such an amazing sight. The productivity of people is just way above what we could imagine. With us, if you bear in mind, we've got 6 or 7 people running after a truck, and they make more mess than they're picking up. But in Spain, it was totally different. I think if these trips are value for money, yes, I would say so. It is, if only just for us to get an experience of first-hand service delivery. What is service delivery in a developed country, and how is it that we can learn from them? So some of the notable achievements, Mr. President, I must acknowledge the exceptional work done by the staff within our office. The MMC's office was one of the best run, if I may say so myself, because we had 2 things going for us. The first was that we seconded Farid Lunat and Fadil Musa to the office, and they have years of experience within the council, so they knew the ins and outs from the word go, so we didn't have to run around and doing anything, trying to find our way. We already had people that knew what to do. I think our entire staff complement lived and breathed godly governance, and I must thank them for what they had done. We had succeeded in establishing the Desmond Tutu precinct around the St. Mary's Cathedral. The establishment of parks in Naledi and Rivoli were stood out as well. We also facilitated the amalgamation of several Muslim burial societies within Johannesburg. They'd always been contending with each other, and we managed to facilitate a meeting of the minds between all of them. We managed to honor 25 theatre greats at the Joburg Theatre, and we also finalized agreements with Friends of the Parks and Open Spaces, which was in keeping with the award that we had received in Poland. While I was mayor, there was it was more of a ceremonial position. But while there, we dealt with the death of the little boy, the 6-year-old Kayaletu Magadla, who fell into a manhole in Shawelo. We dealt with that in a very proper way and respectful manner. We dealt with the family, the communities around that area, because they were very angry with what had happened. But we managed to deal with it so that it wasn't such a major event in the newspapers, because people could blow things like that out of proportion. And as sad as it was, I think we dealt with it in a very respectable manner. We also dealt with the death of 16 congregants who drowned in the flash flood in November. We've also tried at the time to neutralize the aggression of health workers union who were demanding full-time employment. And just today, I was at that gas explosion in Braamfontein, and I saw one of these young ladies that was so aggressive with me at that time, demanding full-time employment and demanding that people get better pay and all of those kinds of stuff. And she greeted me so nicely, and I thought, now where did that devil go to that met me that time, you know? But be it as it may, we also streamlined the process of granting permission for grave sites for destitute families. Now, that is one of the things that we played on or we utilized within the office, because there are a lot of people who have bereavement and they have to find ways and means of burying their families. And we use that to reach out to members of the ANC EFF. Anybody came to our office, there was no sign that said ACDP people only. So we really worked hard and we worked fast to ensure people receive the dignified service that we had. One of the interesting things, the beginning of this year, we worked on across departments to work on a flood mitigation strategy. Now, the EFF had a resolution passed just last month saying that we must do that. We started that in January. When we left office, we had to leave everything. So I thought, well, good luck to you. Start all over again. It's fine. And then just on coming to the buildings, these bad buildings that we're talking about, I spoke about that when we spoke about the business plans that were presented in June of this year. And I spoke about there's 27,900 and odd buildings owned by the city. And many of them are in a horrible condition, in a horrible state. In 2018, I had suggested to the Human Settlements Department a way in which to get some of those buildings out of the clutches of the hijackers. But sadly, nothing has happened and we haven't been heeded. So yes, Mr. President, I think the only way out of this thing is to get the ANC out of power, for one. Secondly,
Good.
I believe we need to think about a motion to remove or to have a total institutional review of the way the city is established. Because those people that are running the Johannesburg Property Company, it's a mafia. You can't get anything right there. You can't get no leases. After that was talking about her challenges, she would have hit a brick wall, even with the mayor, because they are a law unto themselves. And our current code of conduct for councillors prevents anybody, including the mayor, making any breakthrough there. So I think there's some serious challenges, but they are good challenges. They are challenges that we as the ACDP are up to. And I think that's the way forward. We certainly can make our voices known. I think we're punching above our weight in council. And I'm glad for the many, many people who have spoken so well about the work that we have done.
Well, thank you very much, Councillor Harris. I must witness what you just said, confirm what you just said, and also speak about what people said to me when I visited your offices. MMC Ronald Harris was one of the best loved and respected MMCs. His humility affected many people around. I've heard people saying, some of these MMCs, you can't even talk to them. They treat you like you are rubbish or you are nothing, you know. But ACDP, councillors, MMC Ronald Harris, staff members, everybody, they commended him as an MMC and his staff. People said, when we enter the offices of the ACDP, we feel welcome. So tell all your staff members, Councillor Harris, that the ACDP salutes you for the great work you have done. And we thank you for having shown people respect. Regardless of their positions and status, you respected everybody. And that I greatly admire and respect about you. Now, obviously, you mentioned the countries, productivity and cleanliness. You said Spain is one of such countries. You spoke about a city that was spotless. Was that in Germany? What was that? I think I missed that one. A city said
both Poland and Germany. Beautifully.
both Poland. Okay, both Poland and Germany.
Yes.
And at least in Africa, we can go to Rwanda to learn there. DP was with us when we first went to Rwanda. We were amazed. When we left the airport, we were looking out of the windows, trying to find papers along the road. Nothing. Spotless. So we will definitely plan to visit Rwanda again, God willing, very, very soon. And having an amazing feeling of safety. In Germany, says we've had an amazing feeling of safety. And I can guarantee you, once the ACDP is handed over the reins and responsibility of running government in South Africa, there will be such a feeling, because we are not comrades, we are not friends of criminals, we don't owe any criminal anything, we will hit them hard. Now, to prove to you, 1996, we went to a city called Aziz in Brazil. I was pleasantly surprised by a number of things. Maybe I shouldn't talk about them now. I'll be tempted to tell you about Aziz. If you remind me next week, maybe I'll tell you something about them. The three things that amaze me, including seeing a car that is parked outside with nobody inside, idling with the keys inside. People just pass it. Nobody takes it. South Africa. It's like all the thieves that are in hell, their spirits come to South Africa. Stealing in South Africa is just too amazing. Killing, loss of respect for life, loss of respect for God. ACDP, hurry up. Prepare to come into government, because we believe by the grace of God, we will make sure that South Africa becomes a model as God intended, a model among nations of the world. ACDP is the answer for South Africa with godly governance. Very, very true. Your hand toy, that's var, my bro. That's var. So DP, I want to ask you, sir, come in now, tell them about how we can ensure that South Africa has cities that are spotless, cities where we have an amazing feeling of safety, where there is productivity and cleanliness, particularly productivity. How are we going to turn around? I'm asking now my DP, turn around this culture of entitlement that the ANC has built. A culture of entitlement. People can just demand. People can just do nothing and expect to have an increase. What is the meaning of the word bonus? Is bonus just given to every Jack and Jill, or should it be for people who deserve that because of their productivity? Over to you, sir. DP, please unmute, sir. Unmute. I can't hear you. Unmute.
My apologies.
That's it.
I was saying that I want to steal from you, sir, one of the comments that you made. The first thing that we need to do is get rid of the ANC.
Yes,
I think
sir.
that's one of the first things, to ensure that we have a clean, crime-free, law-abiding citizenry in the country. The ANC have expired their sell-by date. Their sell-by date has expired, so we've got to do that first. Secondly, President, I've just experienced load shedding. So we've had a challenge. I've had to reconnect, and hopefully my connectivity would keep me going. But I think that if we do not solve the energy crisis that we currently have, then the economic growth and some of the other things that we were wanting to do, which is a spin-off from that, will continue to be a challenge. Crime will continue to be a challenge if we do not solve our energy crisis. The third thing, President, is we have to look at our education system. In some of the trips that I have undertaken, it's Germany, and then recently we were down in South Korea. South Korea had an education system that met the needs of the country. Now, if we don't have an education system that meets the needs, where there are a lack of skills in the country, your technicians, your electricians, your artisans, your engineers, if we do not have an education system that is going to actually complete that gap and close that gap, we're going to have a challenge. In keeping with that education system is an education system that teaches respect, that teaches accountability, like what you have in Japan, where the little children take responsibility even for cleaning their classrooms. And so these are some of the things that we as the ACDP will pursue and will begin to institute in terms of changes when we become the government in 2024. President, I think that there also needs to be some changes to some of the legislation. I think that when you look at the challenge within the hijacked buildings, a loophole is actually being exploited. And it's a loophole which protects, somebody can actually put up an informal dwelling in your back property, in your yard, or if you're away and somebody gets into your building and they've been staying there for a while, you are not, in terms of the law, you've got to find another place for them, or you've got to go to court, you've got to spend money. But a hijacked building is illegal. But we have, I think Councillor Harris mentioned, you have NGOs that support the criminality. And our legislation also supports the criminality as well. And so there are those who, and where the legislation was supposed to protect people like your farm workers who have been staying on farms for generations and sometimes are just, moved off the farms. The legislation was to protect those kinds of individuals, but it's now being exploited. And so I think one of the other things that we would need to do as the ACDP is to look at legislation that is counterproductive, that results in an increase in criminality, look at legislation that is counterproductive to cleanliness within our cities, and then change that particular legislation so that indeed we have a country that we can all be proud of. Black, white, doesn't matter what your color is, a country that we can all be proud of.
Thank you, sir. We will make South Africa a home to everybody, regardless of how they look on the outside.
Sure.
Beauty comes from the inside. We have people with fairer skin who are beautiful inside, but there are individuals in South Africa. The ANC prefers those who are ugly inside, but darker outside. And that we want to change. We do not want to treat people according to the color of their skin, because we want the best in South Africa. We want the best for every job. And if people can say, but some of our people are not well qualified, we will mentor them. Get somebody who's skilled and professional to mentor somebody next to them who is not as skilled as they are. You don't push away the skills, drive away the experience, drive away the professional. We don't do that. This is one of the most terrible things that the ANC has done in order to destroy this country. Took people who were very good in throwing stones and planting bombs and giving them management. They say, manage this. What do they know about management? Okay, those are some of the things, mistakes they made that we will ensure as the ACDP that they do not happen. I trust that you enjoyed our program tonight, but maybe before we close, can I have a few people just write and say, I think this is going to be part of the solution. We are going to raise some of these things when we do our manifesto, we draft our manifesto, some of the solutions you are giving us here, because we want to hear from you also, because you have brilliant minds. Okay, use those brilliant minds. Give us ideas. And then, Jepradi Varit Menyeri President. Yeah, that's Menyeri van Mpumalanga, JJ. So, because we are all having ideas, God ideas, not just men's idea, but God ideas. We want to implement them to make South Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, something very, very personal. I prayed and said to the Lord, Lord, I don't want to leave South Africa in this mess. before I go, before I die, I want to have an experience that Simeon had. You know that after hearing all the prophecies about the coming of the Messiah, many times he went to the temple looking for the Messiah, not seeing the Messiah, going back home, disappointed, until the day he saw the Messiah. The Bible says he embraced him, and then he prayed and said, Lord, now let your servant depart in peace, for my eyes have seen your salvation. There is much that God, this story is in the book of Luke chapter 2, for those who don't know, okay? There's much that still needs to happen in this country, much that God has promised. And my prayer to him was, Lord, before I go, number one, ACDP must have an opportunity to govern this nation according to your laws and ways. Number two, my eyes has to see you fulfill many of the promises that you have made. Great revival is one of them, but above all, a nation that honors God, and as a result, a nation that enjoys the blessings of God. Thank you very much for being with us. Those were my parting words. DP, if you have the last word to say, my brother, say that last word. Otherwise, we are going to say goodbye. There he is. Say your last words, and then we are going to say farewell to all our guests and to say goodbye to everybody.
Well, President, I think you should have concluded. It was just a sense of listening to you, just a sense of how important it is for each and every one of us to do what we can to make that vision become a reality. And so my encouragement is to everyone that is listening, let's join hands with our president to make that a reality, that indeed our eyes will be able to see the goodness of God in South Africa with the ACDP as the ruling party of the day. So thank you, and God bless each and every one of you.
All right. Thank you, sir. The last announcement from my side. Next week, Friday, we are going to have a protest. Actually, well, one can say protest march, but at the same time, we will be defending biblical marriage or godly marriage. Now, we have a few people who have said they want us to break down what this single marriage bill is. This single marriage bill is, what is it? What are you saying? We are going to do that. Definitely, tomorrow we are going to release some leaflets, pamphlets, where we'll be telling people, one in point form. It will be easy for you to remember. In point form, 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe at most 5 points. Why? What is this single marriage bill, and why is the ACDP saying, let's get into the streets and remind people that God is the one who created marriage. Marriage is not man's idea. Man is messing up marriage. Individuals are messing up marriage. That's why there are so many divorces in South Africa. Divorce has escalated. Why? Because people have moved away from God's plan for our marriages. So we will be sharing this with you maybe as early as before this weekend, maybe as early tomorrow. We'll try tomorrow to send out leaflets and also flyers reminding us what marriage is and why it is important. Next week, Friday, the 15th, to be with us in Pretoria, as we'll be going to the Department of Home Affairs to say to them, hey, we do not want husband and wife to be excluded from the bill. Okay, we don't want that to happen. God spoke about a man leaving his father and mother. Okay, a man cleaving to his wife, man cleaving to his wife. So wife is important, man is important, woman is important, but this bill undermines all that. But we'll tell you more during this week. And to all our guests, thank you very much, Dr. Mike, for being with us, for sharing your thoughts with us. And Pastor Jean Bradley, thank you very much for also being with us tonight. And we have our own counselor, former MMC Ronald Harris. Thank you very much for your great contribution tonight. And DP, my co-pilot, What can I do? How can I fly this without my co-pilot? Thank you very much, sir, for being with us tonight. As always, we will meet again next week, the same place, the same time. Come with all your smiles and contributions. And God bless you. Have a blessed week.
Thank you. God bless you, everybody.
Thank you. God bless.
That's it. No, it happens. Just